such a blessing to introduce Coach Rick Prinz. Love this guy so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's such an honor to be here and be part of this day. I can't tell you. And thank you for the opportunity. Coach, thanks for the introduction. I wish I had more time to make fun of Coach, but I don't. So I want to get right into this. I hope you enjoyed the movie. It sure brings it back to me. The day of the fire, I went to school just like every other day. And I worked out, got cleaned up, and then went over to Starbucks. And I'm waiting in the Starbucks line, and I look inside the store, and there's this dentist-looking guy in there. A guy, that looked like a dentist. And he's looking out the window, it's like, just frozen like that. And I'm like, hey, what's the dentist doing looking out the window? And the gal says, there's a fire in the canyon. I go, really? So I look over in the canyon, and I'm like, oh my gosh, huge amount of smoke over in the canyon. But I'm really not concerned because we always have fires in Paradise, in the canyons, and they never get into town. So I'm not really worried about it too bad. Plus, it's on the other side of town from my house, so I'm not sweating it. And plus, I had a football game, and I was focused on that, and I didn't have time for no stinking fire. When I got back to school, they called the emergency faculty meeting in the library. My first thought was, we have a library? You can tell I haven't written any books. They canceled school at 8 o'clock. I still wasn't concerned. Many fires, we always get them put out. So I decided to stay around campus and help the kids leave and help supervise the kids. I called my son, who was living with us. My son, his girlfriend, and my grandson, Dylan, were living with us. Dylan was born at 25 weeks. We had just spent 3.5 months at UC Davis Medical Center in Sacramento while he developed, and he's perfect. And he was there, and I was concerned that the smoke might bother his lungs. So I told my son, hey, there's a fire in the canyon. You might want to just think of leaving town and getting down in the valley out of the smoke. And then I sent a text to the football team. Don't even think about missing practice today. We practice at 3. We're not going to not practice because there's a little smoke. So see you at 3 o'clock. It was actually more like this. That's how I text. I locked up the gym. I went back to the front of the school, and the principal said, he was on the phone, and he says, the fire's at Ponderosa Elementary School. And I'm like, what? Okay, the fire is now into Paradise. And I'm like, in 30 minutes, it's gone like a quarter of the way into our town. And I'm like, I got to go. And I sprinted to my truck, called my son and said, you guys got to go. The fire's in Paradise. You're going to take my truck. I'll be there in a minute. He says, what are you going to drive? And I go, well, I'm going to drive the old Ford out. I have a 1947 Ford pickup that I inherited from my dad when he passed away. And I treasure it. And there's no way I'm leaving it. I'm taking it. He says, you're not going to make it in that old truck. And I said, I'm taking it. Went home, went into the house, started grabbing his stuff to help him load it. And there was this explosion. Our neighbor's propane tank exploded. And it just shook our house. And I said, let's go. We grab his stuff. We're throwing it in the truck. He's loading the baby. And he says, Dad, look. And we looked down. I looked down the property like 100 feet away, and a spot fire had started in a brush in our yard and was just going up into the trees. And I'm like, take the baby and go. And they took off. And I was so relieved. I was so relieved that they were safe that I went into the house and sat on the couch. And I started thinking about, all right, what do I need to take? So I started packing. About 30 minutes later, I got one of the worst phone calls of my life. My son says, Dad, I'm at Wagstaff. I'm stopped in traffic between 2 gas stations. And I go, you're only at Wagstaff? Wagstaff Road is only 1 mile away. It's been 30 minutes. And he's sitting there, and I thought they were safe. And he says, Dad, I don't know what to do. Should I just wait? Should I take a side road? Should we get out and run? I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you should do. I'm coming down there. I'm going to get down there. So I go jump in the old truck. I head up the road and I get to the Skyway. Skyway is the only evacuation route out of town. And I am in shock. It's a solid wall of traffic. Nobody's going anywhere. The guy lets me in, and it is like a war. It is as dark as midnight, and the smoke is like this, and the wind is just howling. There's literally helicopters flying above, dropping stuff on the fire, and there's explosions. Boom, boom, boom. People are getting out of their vehicles and running and leaving them there. People are jumping in cars with other people to try to get out. About a mile behind me in a big parking lot, people are huddled in the middle of it, sheltering in place while the fire is raging around them. Suddenly, a car just took off through the forest and was just bouncing off trees, trying to get through the forest to get out of there to a bike path. And 2 other cars followed him. And I knew that I pulled up into their spot. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to idle in that truck because I only had about this much gas in it. So I turned it off and decided I was going to push it out because I couldn't idle it. So I got out and got a hand on the steering wheel, and inch by inch, foot by foot, I would push it when the traffic moved. The traffic, and in about an hour, I went about 100 feet. Then I panicked. Not because of the fire, but because I had to go to the bathroom so bad that, I'm 64 years old. It gets urgent, right? I had to go. I mean, for a while, I'm pushing like this. And that's not good. And there's no place to go. I'm in panic mode. I mean, I can't go behind the truck and try to go because there's people. What am I going to do? Like, hey guys, I can't go back there. I can't go in front. Definitely not going into the bushes, into the fire. I got to go. It's urgent. Have you guys ever had to go so bad that you used a Gatorade bottle? I haven't, just asking. All of a sudden, it was a lot easier to push. I was pushing it, and I thought, should I just leave this truck and run? Maybe I could push it off the side of the road. And I go, no, it'll burn. If I leave it on the road, they'll plow it off. I couldn't leave it. So I just kept pushing. Got a phone call from my son. He said, Dad. And I go, wait a minute. Did you make it out? Yeah, I made it out. So he took a side road, got around the traffic before it burned, because it burned bad. And he got out. He said, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. The Skyway's on fire. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm going to make it. Don't worry about it. I'll see you in a little bit. I got to an intersection where I could see the fire, you guys. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you. It was about 100 yards away, up in the top of the trees, just scorching, just raging in the top of these trees. And all these houses are getting scorched. I saw my friend's business going up in smoke. And I'm just like, Lord, move this traffic. Let's go, move it. And I thought in my mind, if I can only get to town, I'll be safe. Town's a big 4-lane road. I'll be safe if I get to town. Finally, after 4 hours of pushing, I made it to town. I was able to start the truck. And at about 5 miles an hour, went through town. Took about an hour, usually about 10 minutes. And then I saw what my son said. The evacuation route was on fire. Telephone poles on fire, wires, and right where everybody's trying to go, the only place out is on fire. The sides are on fire, homes are on fire, trees. And I'm in this old gas smelling truck. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. Here we go. And this traffic picked up. And so I got to go a little bit faster. I drove by the Paradise sign, was laying on the ground. And after 5.5 hours, I made it out safe. So what a day. I was relieved. But the campfire was the most deadly campfire in the history of California. At its peak, it was burning 80 football fields a minute. Think of that. It burned our town down in under 6 hours. 18,800 structures were destroyed. 14,000 homes were destroyed. 30,000 people were homeless. 52,000 people were evacuated. And 86 people sadly died. Life's going to challenge us at some point. It's going to give you something not fair. It's going to take something from you. It's going to interfere with your plans. But the truth is, in our lives, we all will face fires of many kinds. And I have a question for you to think about today. How do you face the fires in your life? How do you face the obstacles that get in your path? How do you face adversity? How do you face those situations that are totally out of control, like when my son called me when he was stuck in traffic? How do you face things that can knock you down and threaten to keep you there if you let them? My dad was the best man I have ever met, and I love him dearly. He was old school, and he expected you to do what he said. One day we were pouring a driveway in front of our house. We had it all formed up. All the rebar was down, and he said, "Rick, go in the backyard and bring me the tow chain. The wheelbarrow's right there. Put it in the wheelbarrow and wheel it out here." I'm like, okay. You know, a tow chain, big 20-foot tow chain, big links, hooks on the end. I got back to the tow chain. There it was on the ground, and there's the wheelbarrow. And I'm like, I don't need no stinking wheelbarrow. Picked up this tow chain. I'm 10 years old. I pick it up, and it's all in my arms, and it's wrapped around me. It's hanging on the ground. So I throw a piece over my shoulder, and I'm going to show my dad how strong I am. I'm starting to carry this thing to the front. And the closer I got, the heavier it got. And it started pulling me forward till I was kind of going like this. And then I got right to those forms, and I hit them. And little did I know the horror that I was about to experience. The chain that I put around my neck whipped up into the sky, came down and hit me right in the spot. Immediately, my childhood was ripped away from me. I had never been in so much pain. It was like a near-death experience. And I saw the light. And then I saw Jesus. And then I saw Jesus sitting at the right hand of God. Then I saw a multitude of angels. And I had a dream. And in that dream, I saw children. And they were my future children, begging for their lives. And then I hit the ground. Boom. My fingers were smashed. They hurt so bad. Their fingernails are bleeding. My elbows are skinned. Both of them, my knees. And I wanted to lay there so bad I was embarrassed. I looked at my dad, and my dad said this, "Get up." Why would my dad say that? Seems kind of harsh. Because he didn't want the son of his laying on the ground, making excuses, feeling sorry for himself, blaming others, being a victim. He wanted a son who would get up, face his adversity with strength and courage. Some will tell you, stay down, you're too weak. Stay down, you've made too many mistakes. Stay down, you have too many problems. It's okay, lay on the ground, make excuses, feel sorry for yourself, point fingers, be a victim. So I'm going to ask you again, how do you deal with the fires in your life? How do you face them? Are you going to lay on the ground, feeling sorry for yourself, making excuses, blaming others, being a victim? Are you going to get up, face your adversity with strength and courage? After the fire, when we got back to school, our kids at the school were suffering. They were hurting. This is about 2 months later. JD, you saw him on the film. JD's bedroom was a walk-in closet in a home they were fortunately found because there's such a housing crisis. And he said, "I thought I was going to die." And he described himself as being very angry and depressed. Stetson lived about 40 miles away. He lived in a little trailer with his four family members. He slept on a chair and wore borrowed clothing because his family had lost everything with no insurance. And he said, the day of the fire, I totally changed. I'm not the same anymore. Spencer, he spent 4 hours huddled in a parking lot with the fire raging around him, calling his dad saying, "Dad, I'm going to die. I don't want to die. Don't want to die." And his dad saying, "Don't die. Don't die." He said, "I don't even know why I'm alive. I have nightmares every night. I gave up drinking soda for drinking beer." Brendan, he's basically homeless. He sleeps on friends' couches and floors. And he would come to school, but rarely go to class. And you couldn't talk to him because he's just so bound up about it. Trevor had lived in 5 different places in about 6 weeks. He found a studio apartment with his mom. And he said, "I'm either sad or mad. I don't know, but I just keep lashing out at people." And Gretchen, who was our kicker, she was heroically rescued on the back of her stepdad's Harley Davidson. He came and got her out of the fire, and they drove through the traffic, and she got out. She had blisters on her wrists, ankles. She said, "I'm so mad at the fire. I'm so mad at what it took from us." When I saw how our kids were, that's just a sample. I knew I had to do something. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an administrator. I'm not a counselor. I'm definitely not a politician. I'm a football coach. And so I started football practice. We started practicing 2 days a week out on this field next to where we were going to school. It really is not even a field, you guys. It's a parking lot covered with weeds, choked with weeds, potholes, rocks. And we went out there, and on the first day, I went out there and I looked, and the kids are like, "I don't have any cleats. I don't have any this." They're in street clothes, and they're all new. Kind of half of them had new street clothes because everything burned, so everything was new. And I'm like, "Oh my God, the parents are going to kill me," because we went out in this mud, and we started practicing, and we didn't even have a football. Kid said, "Coach, we got a ball?" I go, shoot. And we found a football. We got out there. We start running plays, and a kid would fall in the mud. We would laugh. We were having the time of our life. We came out of there muddy head to toe, and it was an incredible experience. We practiced out there on that field for 2 days a week for 4 months. And you should have seen those kids change. Should have seen the demeanor in their faces. Should have seen how they lit up. They had a place to belong. They had something normal. They had something to do that would take their mind off of their troubles outside of it. Stetson said it best. Stetson's our little running back. He says, "When I'm out here, all the good is up and all the bad is down." Isn't that great? Deuteronomy 31:6 says this. "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God is with you. He will never leave you or forsake you." The key word here is be. Be is an action word. Be is something you do. Be is who you are. Be strong and courageous. It doesn't say feel strong and courageous. Be strong. Strength is hanging on. It's taking a grip and not letting go. It is nothing will pull me from this grip. I will hold on to my belief in God. I will hold on to what's important to me. I will not let go. And courage is carrying that out and doing something, taking action. And a great story of strength and courage is found in the story of David and Goliath. David's brothers are telling him, "You can't do it. You're just a shepherd. You'll never kill that giant. He's going to kick the snot out of you. You're too weak. You play the harp for Pete's sake and write poetry. You can't do it." But David would have none of it. None of it. He was so convinced. He was so holding on to his faith in God, that God was with him, that he took action. And verse 48 says, David ran. And David ran at the giant. And we know the story. Sling, boom, giant went down. All of Israel cheered. Yes, David knocked the giant down. But David wasn't done, was he? He ran over, pulled the sword, got over the 15-pound sword, and chopped the giant's freaking head off. And can't you just, I could just picture David now, picking up that head, holding it up, saying, brothers, the Lord, our God, is with me. The Lord, our God, is with me. You can be like David. You can say, the Lord, my God, is with me. When you go through adversity, he is with us. The Lord here is, the word used for Lord is Yahweh. It's God's name. It means a self-existing one, the one that's basically been here forever. The word used for God is Elohim, the mighty one. God Almighty, the creator. The Lord, the self-existing one. God Almighty goes with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Never, ever. Isaiah 41:10 puts it best. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed. I am your God. I will strengthen you when you need it. I will provide the strength that you need. I will help you when you need help. It might not be how we thought we were going to get it, but it happens. And I will uphold you when you can't hold yourself up, because the adversity is so much. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand, which is Jesus Christ. In 2018, the 2019 team, the team that came back, we had a player who's a modern day David. His name's Brendan Moon. Brendan is a 5'6", 140-pound hitting machine on the football field. He played with so much anger that you couldn't even suppress it. He was a backup. He rarely played. He played on special teams. Brendan was put in foster care when he was 9 years old. And his mom had developed an addiction to drugs and was in and out of jail and in and out of rehab. And he struggled in foster care, but had recently found a place where he was stable. And he loved his mom, and he says he can remember her rocking him and singing lullabies to him when he was little, and it's the safest he ever felt. So he hadn't spoken to his mom in several months. He hadn't even seen her in a year, but he still had a tender spot for her. After our third game, the night after our third game, Brendan got the worst call he could ever get in his life from his sister. She said, Brendan, Mom hung herself in jail and is on life support at the hospital. They rushed to the hospital, and Brendan describes it like this. I walked in and he said, I've never seen anything like it. Tubes everywhere on my mom, going in everywhere. She's handcuffed to the bed. She has a big black eye from a jail fight. And her neck is so black and blue and swollen. And he says to himself, why couldn't they have covered that up? I'm too young to see that. I don't want to see that. He sat with his mom for 2 days. Finally, she passed away. And in that time, he talked to his mom and he made a commitment to her. And he said, Mom, he didn't talk to her. He talked to her, I guess. She wasn't responding. He said, Mom, I promise to play football for you. I promise to play life for you. And I'm going to overcome this in my life. And he said, I know you love me and I love you. I want to fast forward now to our first round of playoffs. We're playing a team called Live Oak. And we're doing good. We're going to win. It's the third quarter. We run a playoff tackle. And they're big. They had this huge defensive end, like 6'4", just ridiculous, 280 pounds. He tackled our back and pinned him to the ground and then just started punching down on him like this. I have never seen anything like it. And I was on the sideline, and of course our kids jump in, and we got guys off the bench, and there's a big brawl, and I sprinted out there to stop it. At least in my mind, I thought I was sprinting. When I saw it on tape later, it was more like, It was bad. Anyway, long story short, we got 8 players suspended for the next game. So we're going to play West Valley, very tough football team, very good program, great coaches. We're down 8 starters. But what it means to the Brendan Moon story is he gets to start. His first start in high school. We're at West Valley. We're ahead 14-0 at halftime. We come out in the third quarter and they stuff us. First down, boom, they stop us. Second down, boom, they stop us. It's like 3rd and 10. I even almost thought about throwing a pass. And then 3rd down, boom, they stop us. We have to punt. They get the ball back and they're driving. They're taking momentum. They have a good short passing game. They're throwing it, going perimeter, going up the middle, and they're driving on us. And they're taking the momentum. And then on the 2nd down play, they're on their own 25 now. They decide to throw a slant pass out to their receiver. And if they had hit that, they would have scored. But Moon had different plans. Moon did exactly what the coach taught him. He got his drop, got back underneath that slant. The slant's coming right here, and threw it right to him. I think we have a slide of that, of him making that catch. He catches the ball. He takes off running. He looks back at the sidelines and says, "Is this a dream? Is this really happening?" He continues running. He's running, and his teammates are chanting, "Moon, Moon, 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 Moon," and he crosses the goal line. And hundreds in the bleachers that traveled with us are Moon, 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 Moon. And then Moon goes like this in the end zone to his mom. And the player says, "Moon's mom, Moon's mom, Moon's mom." Hundreds in the crowds because they knew Moon's mom, Moon's mom, Moon's mom. And there he is. That's in the huddle after he ran it in for a touchdown. Sealed the game. We won the game. That is a modern day Goliath. Modern day. In this life, you'll face fires of many kinds. How are you going to face them? You're going to face them with courage and strength. One final thing. In the video, Tom Rinaldi asked me the prospects of the season, and I said, "We're going to have one." And he said, "Why? Why is it important?" You know what? Football wasn't important, really. Moon was important. Moon's the why. Luke's the why. Caleb's the why. Christian's the why. Caston's the why. Julian's the why. Spencer's the why. Gretchen's the why. They're the why. Anyway, thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mal.